includes student-led tours, professional info sessions, and ways to virtually connect with the colleges you are interested in. New colleges and information sessions are held daily throughout the month of June. Follow us on social media at JumpSparkATL and on our website, roadtriptocollege.org, to sign up for more sessions and to create your own personal road trip. With that being said, let's get started. I'm excited to introduce our panelists today from Georgia Tech, coming to us from right down the road from where I am sitting in Atlanta. With us this evening, we have Andrew Cohen, the Associate Director of Guest Experience for Georgia Tech Admissions, Lauren Reckelman, the Program Director for Georgia Tech Hillel, Eliza Duberstein, the Hillel Springboard Innovation Fellow, and Lily Snyder, a current student at Georgia Tech. As our panelists are presenting, please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A box. We will have plenty of time at the end to answer your questions, and I will be moderating that. So please feel free to put your questions there. With all of that being said, I am going to hand it off now to Andrew. Thank you again, everyone, for being with us.
Great, thank you, Kelly, for the introduction. And we're really excited to be with all of you today and share a little bit about Georgia Tech and the type of student that Georgia Tech is really all about and some of the different unique programs. As Kelly mentioned, my name is Andrew Cohen. I'm one of the associate directors of admission at Georgia Tech. So I work with first year applicants, as well as typically work with visitors when they come to campus. And then on just a separate note to add for the group here today, I am a former Hillel president at my alma mater and was very involved in Jewish life on campus. So really excited to be a part of this program. And also, as Kelly mentioned, we are here with one of our current students, Lily, who's one of our tour guides. So Lily, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Lily. I'm a rising third year chemical engineering major. I'm from Sandy Springs, Georgia. And on campus, my biggest involvements would be a social sorority. I'm involved in undergraduate research and a club called For the Kids, where we raise money for our local children's hospital.
Great, thank you. So Kelly, Lily and I will be presenting together and sharing again a little bit about what Georgia Tech is all about. And then I'll talk a little bit about the application process at the end. So to really kind of jump in, I think what's really important to talk about, you guys should all see my screen now, is to just touch on kind of the history of Georgia Tech, because although we were founded many years ago in 1885, the roots of kind of why we were founded and what we were all about then is still really true today in our education and our curriculum. So like I said, we were founded in 1885. Our first major was mechanical engineering. And really, we were established by our state government here in the state of Georgia to help, one, post-Civil War, help Atlanta rebuild, and also help move our society from an agrarian society, a society based on agriculture, into a industrial society, really the start of that industrial revolution. And so that's why engineers were needed. And when we started, our students spent half the time in Tech Tower, taking classes like we're used to in a classroom setting with a faculty member lecturing, but then spent the second half of their day gaining hands-on experience in the shop or the foundry. And that was really important when we were founded, to really allow our students to get that experience so that when they graduate, they were able to jump right into the workforce, again, help Atlanta and the South really rebuild and move into that industrial society that was so needed. Kind of crazy for those of you that are familiar with Atlanta and are local to Atlanta. This will be hard to imagine, but at the time this picture that you're seeing was taken, Tech Tower, which you see that pointy big building in the middle, was actually the tallest building in the city of Atlanta. And really, like, it's not even considered a tall building anymore. This is just so hard for me to imagine when you see the skyline of Atlanta, but it is such a good reminder for me to really remind myself of kind of the growth of Atlanta and kind of what Atlanta is today, and this center for innovation, this kind of really great place for students that are interested in STEM and technology and the industry that exists here in Atlanta. And so our campus has also grown. And so I always say that the city of Atlanta would not be the city it is today without Georgia Tech and the Institute and what the Institute has done. But so would the Institute not be the institution it is today without the city of Atlanta. And so we'll talk a little bit about how students kind of utilize some of those resources, but I think it's a really important thing to think about when we talk about Georgia Tech. You'll see on the screen this idea of creating the next, which really goes hand in hand with our motto of progress and service. These two ideas really involve this idea of bettering the human condition. And so the work that we do on campus in all areas, from classes to projects to research, even staff in the admission office think about this too. But how do we improve the world around us? Students are asking the question how and why, and really solving problems that we're facing in society and within our community. And I think the perfect example of that is kind of what we're all facing right now, and the different ways that the Georgia Tech community has really responded to the COVID-19 pandemic has been just such a great reminder kind of for what the community is all about. And so so many different projects have been happening. On the left is Colby, who is a recent graduate, a 2019 graduate from Georgia Tech, won something called the Adventure Prize, which is our version of Shark Tank on campus. So he won a few years ago. And he runs a company called UltraView that creates equipment for archers. He's a nationally ranked archer. And he ended up kind of pausing production on his products and switched gears and has been printing different types of PPE for medical professionals over the past number of months. But we've had, I mean, just countless examples of different ways that the community has responded to different needs that the medical professionals have been needing. So you can see creating inexpensive, easy to create ventilators have been multiple projects on campus have been happening there, or collaborating with some of our corporate partners. So Coca-Cola's headquarters is directly across the street from Georgia Tech, and they were able to donate plastic to the Institute, the plastic that's used for soda bottles, and Georgia Tech was able to produce thousands of face shields for medical professionals here in the Metro Atlanta area. So that's a great example of kind of what progress and service means today. And so Connor's another great example. Connor just graduated a few weeks ago. Connor is from the local Metro Atlanta area. And prior to starting at Georgia Tech, he actually already had an app in a company. And so he had this app called the Spirit app, which is a way to engage students within a high school, and then kind of evolved and moved into a corporate side and worked with various companies to increase employee engagement. And so because he had that computer science foundation when he came to Georgia Tech, he actually joined our Scheller College of Business to really utilize the different resources that we have for student entrepreneurs. And so through that, over his time at Georgia Tech, really established and helped his company grow, right? He was able to use his company in a classroom setting with projects to help develop his company, and also utilize a lot of the resources that we have here in Atlanta, and had really great mentors within the Atlanta tech community to help the company grow and be successful. So two really good examples of kind of what progress and service means kind of in everyday life. And again, really the root to what we're all about on campus. And so just to kind of talk a little bit about academics, and I'm gonna have Lily kind of share some experiences as well. I think, as you can see, we have over 16,000 undergraduate students. So we're kind of a large, medium-sized school, right? We're not as large as some other schools that you might be hearing from as part of this program, but we're also not as small as some others. So we're a little bit larger than a lot of medium-sized schools that might have 7,000 or 8,000 students. But the anomaly is we only have 36 majors. We want to make sure that the majors that we offer at Georgia Tech are majors that are relevant in students' careers, not just when they graduate, but in 20 and 30 years down the road in their career. The way I always think about this is thinking about computer science. Cybersecurity is obviously a hot topic in the industry right now. If our students really focused in and took all of their classes in that one area of the computer science major, then in 10 years from now, would that degree still be as relevant, right? We don't know what that industry is going to look like. And so we want to make sure that our students are getting that foundation that will be relevant in their whole career. Of our 36 majors, all of them are going to be Bachelor of Sciences. All of them incorporate research, technology, innovation. Obviously, people know us for engineering and computer science and STEM-related majors, but we have, as I mentioned, our Scheller College of Business, as well as our Ivan Allen College of Liberal Arts. Kind of an interesting spin on liberal arts being at a school like Georgia Tech that has such a focus on STEM. But Lily, if you don't mind sharing, obviously, I am not a current student and I'm not an alum of Georgia Tech. So I think it would be great for Lily if you just want to share a little bit about kind of what classes are like, a little bit maybe about your faculty interactions and some of the support that you have on campus to be successful as a student.
Yeah, sure. So first, I think one of the best things that Georgia Tech offers is a class that you can take as a freshman, as a first year. And it's a 1 credit hour class, super easy. And you can either pick to do it about Atlanta, about Georgia Tech, about leadership, about your major. So it was really helpful to me specifically too, because I took it on my major at the time, which was just chemistry, and realized, 1 credit hour. So it was once a week. And one time we had a panel of researchers for chemistry. One time we had a panel of professionals that are doing stuff with chemistry degrees. And that's what helped me realize that what I wanted to do was actually more chemical engineering related. So I was able to talk to my professor of that class, my academic advisor, older classmates, older friends, and be able to switch my major super easily. So I think that's one of the best things about Georgia Tech is that they have something right away that you can take as a first year that helps you see not only what your major could be now, but what it could be in the future. Will it require, more school down the line? Will you be able to go to industry right away? So I think that's super helpful. And going with that, definitely I've had the nicest professors at Georgia Tech ever. Classes are pretty big when you come in as a first year because they are your prerequisite classes, all your Englishes, big maths, big sciences, stuff like that you kind of just have to get out of the way that everyone has to do. So it is pretty big, but if you do have a class that's large, you also have a recitation period with a TA who will help you along the way. This is an older student or that's an undergrad or graduate student, and they did really well in the class, know what they're doing, and can give you another perspective on what the class is teaching. So if you maybe just don't understand how the professor is going about it, there's another person that can help you. There are also plus sessions, which are peer-led undergraduate study sessions, and these are also led by fellow students. They're not required, not part of your grade, anything like that, but it's another opportunity for you to be able to go once a week. It's for an hour. And if there's a test that coming week, it's 2 hours, which is really nice because if it's a 2-hour period, then you could take a practice test for an hour and then go over the answers for an hour. So again, it's something that if you don't understand what your TA or your professor is saying, maybe you don't have any friends in the class that you can study with, anything like that, this person is literally there to guide you along the way in a smaller setting than your class as well. And if those don't work, we have one-on-one tutoring, which is totally free. You just have to sign up online with your student ID. But literally you just sign up for a time slot and go, and you only have to pay, I think like $10 if you cancel within 24 hours. But aside from that, it's free. We also have help desks, which are basically big rooms with a bunch of TAs at once, and you can walk in and get help at any point. So I think that even though Georgia Tech, obviously we focus a lot on our academics, it's really important to everyone that goes there, but it's also really helpful because no one is trying to be competitive about it. You know that if you want to succeed at Georgia Tech, you have to do it with friends, with fellow students, with faculty. So everyone works really well together to be able to succeed in classes. And the professors are so sweet. They have one-on-one office hours. You can go. A lot of them say like, please just show up and talk to me, or else like I have to sit here for an hour waiting for students to come in. So if you don't, I'm going to be bored and lonely. So just come hang out, come chat. And then that can lead to research opportunities, connections down the line. So yeah, it's a great resource. Everyone at Georgia Tech is a great resource.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Lily. I think just to kind of summarize, I think the other piece of that is, as you can see, our retention rate is quite high. And really, that is all because of those things that Lily talked about, from that freshman first year class, that GT 1000 to plus sessions, your academic advisors and faculty. There's really a community around you that is trying to help you succeed, right? I think Lily would agree that classes are not easy at Georgia Tech, right? We know that it's going to be hard and rigorous, but we want you to be successful at the end of the day, and that really shows by the data when you look at the retention rate. As I talked a little bit about in the beginning, the experience that our students, when we were founded, had that time outside of the class gaining that hands-on experience. That really does still exist today in different forms, whether those are internships and co-ops, research on campus, as well as studying abroad, which, although might not be happening right now, we hope that it will kind of get back to where we were prior to this spring semester. But we really think that these experiences are so important for our students to gain those experiences, the global experience of studying abroad. More than half of our students will have an international experience by the time they graduate. So that's really impressive for STEM majors that are typically very hard to study abroad. But when we think about research, research happens in all 36 of those majors I mentioned. We have over $1 billion worth of research that's happening on campus. So real significant amount that students are able to be involved in. And then internships and co-ops are probably, most students will do at least one by the time they graduate. But again, I'm going to turn this one over to you, Lily. Do you want to share what you're up to these days over the summer, and a little bit about maybe the difference between what an internship is versus a co-op?
Yeah, so also just a little bit about the research that you just mentioned. So that's something that not everyone does, but it's so easy that everyone could if they want to. There's so many open positions. Pretty much every professor at Georgia Tech is conducting research, and it is up to you as a student to reach out to them, or there are fairs that you can go to get research opportunities. Emailing professors though, talking to them, trying to get in touch with their colleagues is super helpful. And I think getting involved with research this past spring was one of the best things I could have done, because it showed me, it kind of just confirmed what I was interested in within my major, because as Andrew was saying, you want the majors to be relatively broad and give you a really good basis on what's going on, but then it's up to you to kind of find what research you want to do, what internships you want to do, if you want to, totally up to you, but to be able to kind of decide where you want to go in the future with it. So I would highly recommend that. And then also this summer, I'm doing an internship. So the difference really quickly between a co-op and an internship is that a co-op is 3 rotating semesters. So you have work, school, work, school, work, and then resume school until you graduate. So that's usually with just one company, and you go back those alternating semesters with usually the same role. You could change it up depending on the company, but it's just kind of a way to make money, get experience, and be able to work in depth with one organization or one company. So you really get a feel for what they're doing specifically, and then you become really proficient in what you're doing, so that when you come back, you don't need to be retrained. You just go right back into things. And it's a really popular option because while you do a co-op, you can choose to live on campus if you want, but you can live off campus, not pay Georgia Tech at all, but you're still a Georgia Tech student. So you get all the benefits of being a Georgia Tech student, but you're getting paid. So a lot of people do that to be able to, pay for the next semester's tuition, or save that money, maybe spend it when you go abroad, something like that. But it is a really useful thing that a lot of Georgia Tech students participate in. So the difference between that and an internship would be that an internship is just a 1 semester thing typically. So that's what I'm doing right now. So it's just for the summer. I'm working at a paper mill in Augusta, Georgia, and I'm in their environmental department. So I am a chemical engineering major, but I'm working with their environmental people there to see how kind of chemical engineering and environmental sciences work together, and how I can apply that chemical engineering degree to what I think I want to do in the future, which is kind of environmental side of chemical engineering.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think the options are endless, and obviously Lily is still fairly local. She's still in the state of Georgia with her internship, but co-op and internship experiences can happen all over the country, and we have really great relationships with a lot of corporations. All the ones that kind of come to your mind, Georgia Tech probably will have a pretty good relationship for our students to really benefit from. And then I think I know many of you might be from the Atlanta area, but I think it's just so important to just highlight how useful it is for students to really gain experiences outside of campus and be able to call Atlanta their college town. So Lily, I know you are from the Metro Atlanta area. I guess, how has your experience changed a little bit being a student in Midtown Atlanta now? Kind of, what are things that you take advantage of now that you might not have been taking advantage of prior?
So I'm again from Sandy Springs, Georgia, so that's definitely more suburban than where I'm living now in Midtown. And the biggest difference for me is that you can literally walk everywhere. So when I lived in Sandy Springs, it was rare that I would drive downtown or to Midtown and then park really expensive parking and then try to find something to do, find somewhere to eat. But now that it's where I live, it's really easy. You can walk pretty much anywhere. Piedmont Park, sports venues, restaurants, concert venues, pretty much anything you want is within walking distance. And it's, I think, the best combination because Georgia Tech does have its own campus. So we have totally campus field with like fields and grassy areas, open spaces, but then you just walk across the street and you're in Midtown Atlanta with so many opportunities there that I definitely wouldn't have realized that either Georgia Tech had this great campus or that it was so easy to access everything in Atlanta.
Great. I think for any of you that are not from the Metro Atlanta area, I hope you are able to come visit us soon on campus, but also give yourself some time to just explore Atlanta. There is so much to do, and I think all of us here from Georgia Tech could give you a whole list of good recommendations of places to eat and activities to do here in this city. So on that note, I do want to spend a little time just talking about the college application process. I know that some people have been submitting questions in the Q&A. I'm going to try and answer some of the Q&A if I can type them in, but Kelly's going to come back on later on and we'll answer some more questions and I'll go into some specifics. But before we do, I think it's just important to say how much we at the Office of Admission really understand the stress that is normally around the college admission process and how that is just heightened right now with everything that is going on. And that we know that there's a lot of uncertainty and we are here to help walk you through that process. I think the other piece that's really important is things are changing very quickly on a day-to-day basis, sometimes it feels like. And so the information that I share with you today might change in a week or in 2 weeks or in a month from now. And so that is important to think about. And I do recommend following up with us if you have questions, following up and checking our website, because we'll make sure that that is always up to date with the information that we know at the time. But the thing I like to start about is just talking about two definitions that are really important. The first is what selective admission means. At Georgia Tech this past year, we received 40,000 applications for a class of about 3,300 students. Most of those applications of that 40,000 are academically qualified to be successful at Georgia Tech. And so we use a holistic application review process to review applications. It is a lot of reading by our admission team. But what holistic application review really means is that we're going to take into account your whole application. And it means that there's never going to be one thing on your application that ever is a make it or break it in terms of that final decision. And so that's really important when we look at the different factors that we use when we review applications. So the first thing is academic preparation. And what that means is that we are going to take a look at your transcript as well as what's called your school report that comes with your transcript. It's basically your school's resume to understand what type of opportunities were afforded to you at your high school and what did you take advantage of. We want to see that students are taking advantage of more rigorous curriculum and doing well in them. I leave that very broadly because that means something different for each of you, since you are at many different schools probably. So again, taking advantage of rigorous curriculum and doing well in that. We do at this time require either the SAT or ACT. Students who do take it multiple times, we do take the best scores of each section when we review an application. The other pieces that we're going to look at are some of those things that are outside of the academics and what we call contribution to community. The way I think about this, and it will sound harsh at first, but just bear with me, is the idea that when you go away to college, who in your community is going to miss you, or how are you going to need to be replaced? And just bear with me. What I mean by that is think about some of the different things that you're involved in. Are you a leader in an organization, and that position is going to have to be filled when you go away to college? Are you a member of a sports team and play a specific position, and that position will need to be filled with a new player when you go away to college? Do you work a part-time job, and those shifts will have to be filled? We want to see that you are staying busy, that you're involved, and making an impact in the community around you, right? Going back to that idea of progress and service, and knowing that students are so involved on campus, we want to see that you're already doing that as a high school student. Students are going to submit essays to us, and those essays will get posted over the summer for students entering next fall. So we're still working on finalizing those. But again, this is kind of your interview for us. We don't offer interviews for students. So this is really our chance to get to know you better, get to hear a little bit about your voice from you in your voice, to really understand who you are as a person a little bit better. We accept 2 recommendations, one from a teacher who's taught you in a classroom setting, as well as a school counselor. Again, those help provide us some more context, and it doesn't matter which teacher writes that recommendation for you. Just because you're applying to a STEM major doesn't mean it needs to be a math or science teacher. Maybe an English teacher will write a better recommendation for you. Yeah, think about that one. But maybe they know you better because you've gone to them outside of class and have worked really hard to get that grade that you got in their class. I said we don't have interviews, but you see the next thing on the list is that we do offer some type of interview. And this is really for students who might be in an English curriculum taught in a language other than English. And really, we want to make sure that everyone who joins the Georgia Tech community has English proficiency because of that collaborative environment that we have on campus. All of those things I just talked about are all things in your control. Those are things that you can really make an impact on, right? You can decide when you start to write those essays, what you're involved in, what classes you take. This last idea of institutional fit is one that happens at every institution. Not every institution will talk about it, but we want to try and be as transparent as possible in the college admission process. And this idea is that we have different priorities that are set by the institute, by our government, when we are enrolling a class each year. And so those are things that are going to get taken into account, right? That fit to Georgia Tech, right? Georgia Tech, talking again, progress and service and the different types of programs we have, we want to make sure that you align with that. But some of the other things that we are taking into consideration, for example, is we are a public institution. We have a mission to serve our state of Georgia, and therefore we're going to enroll a class of about 60% from the state of Georgia, 30% from the other 49 states, and about 10% will be international. And we want to enroll students in all 36 of our majors. We want students coming from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to create that collaborative environment on campus. As you can see, we have 2 deadlines, our early action deadline and our regular decision. We do not have early decision. We have no binding decision. Students that apply early action have their applications due on October 15th. They get a decision back from us in January. Students that are admitted will have until May 1st to make their decision on whether or not they attend. Regular decision, again, right after January 1st, we'll get a decision mid-March. And again, students who are admitted will have until May 1st to make that decision on whether or not to attend Georgia Tech. At Georgia Tech, we review applications exactly the same in both early action and regular. The only difference is that students that apply early action are going to be automatically considered for some of our limited merit-based aid that we do offer. And so that's going to be the only difference. There's no separate application for any of those. You just would have to apply by October 15th. And then just the last slide to wrap up, I just think it's always important to talk a little bit about paying for college. We understand that it is a very expensive family decision. and thinking about where to attend. And so we want to make sure that we give you some resources to make an educated decision. I think something to think about is specifically at Georgia Tech is our return on investment. As you can see, our students are graduating and having an average starting salary around $74,000, significantly higher than the national average. So our students are graduating and being really successful. That can really make that degree well worth it. But you can see some of those different things that we really mentioned during our presentation. So Lily talked about those co-op and internship experiences as well as research. Co-ops can typically make you about $20 to $25 an hour working full-time for a company for 3 semesters over your course of the time at Georgia Tech. When you're co-oping, you're not paying tuition. A great way to save for future tuition bills. Internships and research also can be done paid. Part-time jobs are pretty lots of options on campus. Also in Atlanta, there's off-campus options as well that many students will have. But I think the one thing to leave you with is this idea of outside scholarships. Students that are competitive in our admission process are going to be competitive in the admission process and the application process for scholarships. And so once you finish up your college admission applications, we definitely recommend that you do spend some time to look for those scholarships that you're eligible for and spend some time applying for those, because they really can help make a difference when paying for college. They could be $500, they could be $5,000. Those all can make a difference when we think about the necessary expenses that come with going to college and books and things like that. So definitely something that you need to think about now, but we'll really need to think about a little bit later once you finish your college admission applications. But on that note, I'm going to turn it over to our colleagues at Hillel. So Lauren and Eliza are also on the line, as Kelly introduced earlier, to share a little bit about what Jewish life is like on campus.
Hi guys, I'm Eliza and my coworker Lauren is here. So we're just going to tell you a little bit about Jewish life at Georgia Tech and what we do at Hillel. Lauren, I don't know if you have the PowerPoint ready.
I do. Here, I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Cool.
That one. Oh, it's not at the beginning. Oops. Go back. There we go.
So I'm just going to go through all the different types of programs we do at Georgia Tech Hillel. So our first major type of program we do is our social events. We hold weekly social events. The biggest one is our bagel break, where you get a free lunch every week. Bagels and lox, they're very yummy. And then we also do other social programs like our welcome barbecue and different programs that our committees put on. So our committees have different niches that they're interested in. So there are committees that cater to 21 plus programming, there's women's programming, outdoor programming, and lots of other options. And these committees all put on different programs for their peers. So here they're making succulents and they're doing art and just different fun things. So the next type of program we have is our Shabbat and holidays program. So we try to do a different program for each of the Jewish holidays. We'll do things in the Sukkah, and here we're at Shabbat, and we do a Hanukkah party. And once again, we have a Shabbat and holidays committee that puts on all of these different programs. And we'll do Shabbat a couple times a semester, depending on what the committee wants. And they're always fun food and fun friends, and it's a really good time. So the next type of program we have is specifically for freshmen. So if you come to Georgia Tech, there will be programs just for you in your first year. We actually have a freshman leadership council that you can apply for if you come to Tech. And you can plan programs for your peers, or you can go to the programs that the council puts on. So here they're doing game nights, and we do Havdalah and s'mores, and we did a break fast for Yom Kippur, and just different things to let you get to know like members of your own grade, which can be a really good way to make friends in your first year. Okay, cool. And so then our next type of program is our learning opportunities. And we have specific fellowships that you can do through Georgia Tech Hillel, where you can actually get paid to do weekly learning sessions. We do a Jewish learning fellowship and an Israel learning fellowship, and sometimes other types of fellowships that come up during the semester. And those are a cohort-based system. So you really get to know everyone in the cohort, and you eat dinner every week, and it's just a really good way to make community. And then we also have just one-off programs like Lunch and Learns that talk about just Judaism and other topics. So here there was one about mental health, and another one was an interreligious event. And it's just different ways to learn about Judaism and other topics. So then the next type of programming we do is Israel-related programming. So we do a huge Israel Fest every year, and it's so fun. There's dancing and tons of food and camels and virtual reality, and everyone's just hanging out. And that's like for the whole Georgia Tech community, Jewish and non-Jewish. And then we also do a birthright trip every year, which is amazing, a free trip to Israel, and you go with all your Georgia Tech friends. And it's just a great way to see Israel with, people you go to college with. And then lastly, we have our Tikkun Olam and service opportunities. So we try to find ways to get our Jewish students out in the community and to do different service opportunities. So we have here, we go to the Bremen home, which is the Jewish retirement home, and we'll do Shabbat services with them. And then every year we plant trees. And in this other picture, we're making blankets for the local women's shelter. So different service opportunities pop up, and they're all really good ways to get involved with Georgia Tech Hillel. And lastly, I just want to say that with Hillel, you can get involved as a freshman or any other year, and you can be as involved as you want. If you want to be the president, if you just want to come to a couple things, it's all fine. So we hope you come to Georgia Tech, but wherever you go, I strongly recommend you get involved with your Hillel.
Kelly, you're on mute.
I was just saying thank you. That was incredibly informative. I mean, I spend all day on Zoom. You'd think I'd figure this out by this point. Okay, so I just want to, there have been questions coming up in the Q&A function that our panelists have generously been answering. So as they answer those questions, the answers become available to everyone to see. So I want to draw your attention to the Q&A to see those questions that have already been answered. And I'm going to ask just a couple questions that haven't been answered yet. The first one is, which I think is an incredibly important question, what types of mental health support does the university have in place for freshmen? And I will add just in general for students.
Yeah, sure. I will start, but I'm going to turn this one over to Lily. Being a current student on campus, obviously there are tons of different programs on campus for students to get different the different mental health support that they need. It kind of depends on what a student really needs, but there's definitely a lot. I think just one, Lily will talk a little bit about some maybe more specifics, but I think one of the new initiatives that I've been really impressed about is trying to meet students where they want to be met. And so something that our student life and student affairs staff on campus have been doing is creating positions on campus for counselors to actually be housed in our different colleges. So that was a pilot program, so it was housed in just a few, but is being rolled out to have a mental health counselor specifically housed in each of our 6 colleges. So that's just one example, but there are tons of different ways that we are reaching out and making sure students have that support. But Lily, do you want to share a little bit from a student perspective?
Yeah, and I think it can tie in a little bit with one of the other questions too. So like Andrew was saying, there are a lot of counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists that work at Georgia Tech, and we have them in our student services facility. But in that building as well, we have an LGBTQIA resource center, a women's resource center, things like that. So if you ever are struggling in a certain area, if you have any questions, if you feel unsafe or have, you know, any hesitation at all, you not only can go to someone that's like a counselor or a doctor, but you can also go to people in that resource center. There are students there who are trained in those areas, who are really passionate about those subjects. And then there are also trained professionals that work there as well. So those are really great facilities that you can go to. Literally, you can walk in at any time. It's in the student services building. So that building pretty much has anything you would need as a student to feel comfortable. And we also have hotlines that are available 24/7. So if you are up late one night and just want someone to talk to, there are numbers to call. And along with that, a lot of the other organizations that I'm in also have people in them that reach out as either health, mental health chairs and things like that. So in my social sorority, we do have a department that's fully based on mental health of every sorority member, making sure that everyone not only is doing well academically, but also mentally. Anything you are struggling with, you can go to them. And a lot of my other clubs as well, pretty much everyone, not only on the executive boards or, you know, who's up in the club, but pretty much everyone who's in those clubs is fully aware of everyone else's situation. Like, they want to be your friend, they want to help you out. So not only can you go to people that are staff members from Georgia Tech, but also your fellow students are really good resources, because everyone at Georgia Tech knows how hard the classes are, knows how stressful it can be to be in college sometimes. So they are really good resources as well.
Great, that's amazing. So my questions that I have in front of me are really falling into two categories. They're kind of the questions for Andrew and the questions for Hillel. Oh, and there are more coming in. Okay, so I'm going to start with the questions from Andrew and then we'll go to the questions for Hillel. Let me give you a couple, and then you can take them as you want. What percentage of students live on campus? That's a question. There's also a question about test scores. Specifically for folks who are having trouble accessing tests. This is someone in New England who is specifically asking about that. And then somebody wanted to hear about the College of Business and the role and what that looks like for undergraduate students. So those are the three on the admission side.
Cool, sounds good. So I think the first question about housing, typically our first year students, about 96% of our first year students live on campus. So basically all first year students will start off on campus, especially for our local students. I mean, Lily's not too far away that if she really wanted to commute, she could, but she would be sitting in Atlanta traffic for a significant amount of her daily life. And that, I don't think, it's the best use of her time as a college student. But I also think that there's just so many benefits with living on campus. And there's a lot of research that has been done that really shows that being on campus you will have a higher GPA, you'll be more successful in a college classroom. So definitely recommend that. Afterwards, the number does drop off a little bit each year because there are a lot of different opportunities to move off campus, to live in Greek housing and things like that. So students are still kind of in that surrounding neighborhood around campus. But like I said, each year that number does drop a bit. The next question was about testing. And like I said, when I started talking about the college admission process and how we review applications, the information that I am sharing today is where we're at currently. We are part of a larger university system here in the state of Georgia. And so a lot of those policies that we do have, we do require guidance from our university system. And so currently we do require test scores with needing test scores not really until December. We're hoping that students are able to take a test to submit something to us. But like I said, that might change as we get closer, and we will definitely share that information with the college counseling community, with hopefully your college counselor, and with any applicants. So we'll definitely keep everyone updated should things change to the admission process. So that's where we're at today. And then I think there was one more question that I think was about our business school. So we do have our Scheller College of Business, which houses just a business administration degree. And then there's going to be some different focuses for students if they're more interested in maybe finance, for example, or entrepreneurship. I think what I really love about our Scheller College of Business is being on a campus like Georgia Tech that has of STEM focus, right? And so you are surrounded by students that are going to be engineers, be computer scientists, and there's such great collaboration and really helpful in kind of a student's kind of personal and professional growth. And so as a business professional, you need to be able to talk to a scientist who might think really differently from you and need to explain and pitch an idea to them. And so I think that's great, but vice versa, that scientist needs to be able to speak to a business professional and a business executive in the same way. And so there's a lot of really great collaboration there. I mentioned our Adventure Prize earlier, that student entrepreneur competition. Many times those competitions, you'll see pairs of STEM majors with business majors, right? Because who can write that business plan for the company? So there's really a lot of collaboration that makes the business program a little different than at another institution.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna shift over to Hillel for a minute, give you a couple of questions. And Lauren, you also commented in the chat to me that there was a question that was answered you want to address, so feel free to go rogue when I hand it off to you.
Sure.
So we received a question in advance about Orthodox Jewish life on campus specifically, and then another person asked, how could I participate in the Jewish life at Georgia Tech? I think those are the two, and then if there was anything else specifically you wanted to address.
Yeah, for Orthodox life on campus, so there are some kosher food, things like kosher food options on campus. They're not typically widespread. I will say that as far as our Jewish students go, Orthodox is not the main denomination, but there are certainly a community of Orthodox students at Tech. There's also, in addition to Hillel, a Chabad on campus, and between Chabad and Hillel, all of our events serve kosher food. So that's definitely an option as well, to find other types of kosher food on campus. But I will say that by and large, the students, they identify in all different kinds of ways about Judaism, but typically they're not coming from Orthodox backgrounds. So while we have the space to support that in offering kosher food and connecting you to resources, particularly to the Toco Hills community in town, which is the closest, it's about 15 minutes away, and it's the closest Orthodox community in Atlanta. You know, we do want to be honest that that is not the majority of the experience of Jewish life on campus, but those students are present and are a part of the Tech community, and we do have ways to connect you to what you'll need. And then, I don't know, Eliza, if you want to take the other question, how do you get involved? Was that the question? How do you get involved in Jewish life on campus?
So we can, or at Tech, like people can get involved right away during the first week of classes, or during the, I guess, like welcome week. We always have a full week of programming that's dedicated really to just getting freshmen involved. So at our welcome barbecue, and then we have a freshman ice cream social or something similar. So during that first week, if you just come out, that's a good way to get involved. But if you're maybe not wanting to that first week, the best way too is you can always just reach out to any staff member or any member of the Hillel student board, and we'll take you out for coffee for free. So we'll meet with Starbucks, we'll buy you some coffee, and we can talk to you about you and how exactly you want to get involved with Jewish life at Tech. So I think that that's a really good way. And then also just get on our listserv, and you'll get our emails about all the different programs we do. And whenever you want to come, you can come, and you'll always be welcome.
Yeah. And then the question that I wanted to go rogue on, Kelly, was one that is in the chat, but I think it's a really key part of how Hillel functions on campus. So I wanted to make sure everybody heard it. So it looks like Maxwell Fletcher asked how many people are a part of Hillel, and asked about that we mentioned Shabbat happens 2 to 3 times, a Shabbat dinner happens 2 to 3 times a semester, and what are other options for weekly Shabbat dinners? And that's a really great question. So in terms of the numbers, we estimate that there's about 400 to 500 Jewish undergraduate students. And I would say that, you know, if it's any indicator of how many students are involved with us, some are involved much more in depth with us. We have a student leadership team that has 6 members on the executive board. So they're like our most highly involved students. And then we have almost 30 students who serve on various interest-based leadership committees. So those are students we're going to see all the time, you know, sometimes like 40 plus times in a year coming to Hillel. So if that gives you any idea, our weekly bagel break, we see anywhere from 50 to 80 students coming to that, depending on if there are midterms and what else is going on in the semester. So I think that kind of gives you an idea of how we sort of expand out. So really, no matter what you're coming to, there's always going to be somebody there at Hillel. And so I would say we have anywhere in the range of like 100 to 200 students who are really consistently involved on one of those levels. And then we have probably another 100 who we see a couple times a year. So that, if that gives you any idea of the numbers. And then for Shabbat, so this is really key, and I forgot to mention it. One of the reasons that we don't do a big community Shabbat dinner every week is that we actually don't have our own Hillel space on campus. So we use a lot of public spaces on campus. We have been using the student center primarily. That's being renovated, so we'll find new spaces on campus. They're typically very central and very accessible, but it does make it challenging because we have to get all of our food from the kosher kitchen over at Emory and bring it to campus. So that's one of the reasons that we don't offer a big community dinner every week. However, like Eliza said in the answer in the chat, Chabad does do a dinner every week. So if there's a week that Hillel is not offering a dinner, there is a Shabbat dinner accessible to you. And one of the things that I'm really excited about moving forward in the next couple of years with Tech Hillel is that we're trying to get a little more creative about supporting smaller community Shabbats. I don't know if y'all aren't really the target demographic for One Table, but we're sort of stealing their model of gathering in the home for Shabbat. So students could apply to essentially be a Shabbat host and have, you know, 10 students over for Shabbat dinner, and we would fund that and help you cook the food or get the food and provide you with challah and candles and grape juice, etc. for that experience. And that's not something that we have running yet, but it's something I'm really excited to explore in the future. And I think that now is actually a really prime time for that, when big gatherings may not be possible for a while. And so it's kind of forced us to think creatively in a way that I think will benefit our Shabbat programming in the long term.
Amazing. Okay, so I have one last question. This one is going straight to Lily. This is going to be exciting. Can you talk about dorm life, laundry facilities, and the meal program? That seems like a question for you.
Yeah, I can do that. So dorm life, so as Andrew had said earlier, about 97-98% of incoming first years do choose to live on Georgia Tech's campus and be part of the first year experience, which is where you live in a Georgia Tech dorm and you are part of a Georgia Tech meal program. So all dorms are fairly similar. They're traditional style dorms with 2 beds or 4 beds. You could be in a double or 4 people. And they all have like traditional communal bathrooms, you know, with like communal showers, communal stalls, you know, that whole thing. So it is definitely like college experience in that way, but also every floor of every dorm has a room that is a community room. So it either has a bunch of tables where you can do your homework, or it has a couch and a TV. And usually each floor is a little bit different. So maybe if your floor has a big seating area and a TV that you guys can like watch Super Bowl at and stuff like that, then the floor above or below you will have desks, and then the floor above or below that will have like round circles tables where you can work with all your friends. So it kind of depends on which dorm you're in, also what you get in terms of that social room. But there is on every floor somewhere you can go that's more like community hangout area. And then also every dorm does have like kitchenettes, which have an oven, refrigerator, sink, microwave, things like that you would need that you can't really bring to your dorm. You can have mini fridges and microwaves, but you can't have an oven in there. So if you need anything like that, then it would be in a little kitchen area. And you can also pick your own roommate, or you can have Georgia Tech help you pick a roommate, or you can go random with your roommate. It's totally up to you. Basically, when you get admitted into college, everyone kind of goes crazy, tries to find a bunch of people that are going to be going with them. And you can either choose to make friends with them and room with them, or kind of go your own way, let Georgia Tech do this matching service and then tell you who you should talk to. or even just go random and see what happens when you move in on move-in day, which is what I did. So tons of options there. And then you can also choose between East and West Campus. There's not a huge difference. The dorms are the exact same. It really just depends on where you want to be close to. West Campus is more towards the school buildings, the engineering, higher class buildings. And then East Campus is right next to the football stadium and more of like Midtown area. So Publix and all that stuff is right off of East Campus. So that's totally up to you as well. And then with the meal plan, so when you come to Georgia Tech, you'll get a student ID. I'll show you mine. Looks like this. So then when you want to go dine, you can either go to a, why am I forgetting the word? Okay, a dining hall. You can go to a dining hall, and those are like the all you can eat. So you like swipe in and then eat as much as you can and then leave. You can also use this at restaurants with buzz funds or dining dollars. So dining dollars are tax-free dollars that you can use at the restaurants we have on campus, which include like Chick-fil-A, Starbucks. We have Dunkin' Donuts, pizza places, a place that has sushi, really anything you can imagine. You can use those dollars there. And then we also have buzz funds, which are primarily used for laundry or printing, but then you can also use them at most vending machines or restaurants as well. They're just not tax-free. So if you want to spend money at restaurants, then I would suggest the tax-free option because that's better for you. But there are a bunch of meal plans you can select, some that are every day. So you get like 4 meal swipes a day, a certain number of dining dollars, a certain number of buzz funds, or you can do ones that are just during the week. You can do some that are like if you join a Greek organization, you can join your Greek meal plan, which is where you eat at your Greek house for lunch and dinner Monday through Thursday, and then just lunch on Friday. And then you still get meal swipes and dining dollars and buzz funds on here for the weekends or for times that like you don't want to walk all the way to your Greek house. But so tons of options, and then you can add dollars as you go through the year if you want more. So that's really up to you. And then I guess more specifically about the laundry facilities. So they're either in your dorm or next to your dorm, very close. Mine was just outside, but like maybe 20 feet outside. So go outside, go in, and then you use this to pay money on the machines and then just do your laundry as usual. But that also depends on which dorm you're in, if it's in the dorm or a walk. And when I say walk, I mean like down some stairs and right outside. So it's not a big deal either way. But I think that's about all I have there.
That was awesome. It brought back a lot of college memories of meal cards and laundry services. So thank you for that. So thank you to all of our presenters. This was incredibly informative. And I want to say thank you also to all the teens and parents who joined us. All of the folks on the call tonight are committed to helping you learn more about Georgia Tech Hillel, and would encourage you to reach out if you have any additional questions that maybe didn't get answered today. But again, I want to thank everybody from Georgia Tech for being so wonderful and helpful in sharing about your great school. I do want to just take a second and plug our upcoming events on the college road trip. On Sunday night at 5 o'clock, we have a parent webinar for the parent role in the college application process. Monday at 5 p.m., we will have an information session with Duke University. Tuesday at 5 p.m., we have a workshop for teens on creating your college list. And on Wednesday at 5, we'll have the University of Florida. All of more information and the ability to jump on the bus with us for this whole road trip is available at our website, roadtriptocollege.org, on our social media at JumpSparkATL. And there will also be students. There's a great one from today from a Georgia Tech student on our Instagram story talking about the universities. So please stay tuned for those. And all of these webinars will be saved on our YouTube channel, which is also accessible through our website. So thank you again to everyone. It is 6 o'clock on the dot, so I'm going to sign off here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.